Okay, so Paul Ryan cut his teeth in finance with Mark Burris's Wizard Home Loans and has recently kicked off a fintech company called Eccho. So to see what this company proposes to do, Paul joins me at the desk, mate. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thank you.
So tell us, well, I guess the first thing is, why Eccho?
Well, Eccho is a word that we've looked at long and hard, but Eccho is a word that amplifies information, and that's what Eccho is about. It's amplifying information from the consumer as well as the independent finance experts that are on the platform.
Now, isn't it funny? I remember when Mark started the business Wizard, I was listening to a guy from George Pants who said, you know, Wizard has its problems. It could be like you're very clever and you can do things with money, but it also could be that you've got trickery and magic there and stuff like that. But it worked out well for Mark.
Magic rate and magic marketing, and turned out pretty well.
Yeah. So in your case, Eccho, what is this fintech business going to do?
Okay, so what Eccho is, it's a Q&A platform to allow consumers to ask any question in relation to finance, loans and credit. Our research tells us that consumers are wanting to ask questions or seek second opinions. But sometimes they're not quite sure where to go. Their bank manager may have moved on, or they've forgotten who their mortgage broker was.
They might not like their bank manager.
They may not like their bank manager, and sometimes they're intimidated by that whole process. Yeah. So Eccho allows them to, at their own convenience, in their own time, anonymously, to ask a question. And the questions are answered by the registered independent finance experts that are on the platform.
How many you got?
We're only 6 weeks old, so there's 400 odd questions and answers. Yeah. There's 130 odd individual brokers that are on the platform. So we've started okay.
I should imagine coming on a show like this, a lot of financial planners watch this show. You'd be hoping that these guys sign up to actually be answerers as well?
Well, it's important to note we're not taking on the financial planning industry. Okay. This is strictly about finance.
So it's mortgage brokers?
Mortgages, loans, credit. Okay. So consumers are sitting around saying, well, is the interest rate on a home loan competitive? Yeah. How do I apply for a home loan? Okay. What savings do I need? What LVR do I need to buy my first home? But it's also credit cards, debt consolidation. What's happening with interest rates? Should I fix? Should I stay variable? So they can anonymously, there's no spam involved or anything like that, which I think is important to note. They can ask the question. It's a husband and wife, family sitting around at 9 o'clock at night can say, well, how do we find this out? More often than not, they get caught up with the day-to-day things the next day and picking kids up from school or work, and the next thing you know, one day, tomorrow never comes. It's a week down the track. Whereas they can ask a question at 9 o'clock at night, and they may have, by 9 o'clock the next night, 3, 4, 5 answers to their questions.
Is there a similar kind of model overseas that you've seen work successfully?
Not to this extent. There are Q&A platforms throughout the world, without a doubt, but this one we wanted to make sure that they get an opportunity to get their questions answered by experts. But also that the information is transparent. And that's the beauty of the information, because you can register with Eccho, but you don't necessarily have to ask a question. You can just review everyone else's questions and say, well, that's relevant to me, and then have a look at the answers. So you may not necessarily participate, but you're still getting the benefit of all this library of information.
How do you make money?
We're building the community, obviously, to start with. Where we make money is the finance brokers, bank managers, peer-to-peer lenders. They can register, and there's a subscription model for them. Most of them are joining the free platform. There is a platform which obviously we'll charge for, and that provides them with extra benefits. For consumers, it's very important. It's free for them. So it's a library of free information for them.
Okay, so you've been going for 6 weeks.
Yep.
What kind of uptake have you got in terms of questions?
Questions, as I said, there's 400 odd questions and answers there, so you probably find there's about 80, 90 questions that are there, so a lot of people are reviewing the questions. Because it's new, they're probably sitting back watching and waiting for different things. But there's some great questions in there about interest rates, how do I start saving. Where we're finding getting cut through is with the younger generation, the 24, 25, 26, the next generation of borrowers, and they're saying, well, we're not old enough necessarily to have real life experience in this regard, but it never got taught to us at school or university.
Well, if it was, they probably weren't listening anyway. Some poor, hopeless, helpless commerce teacher was probably trying to explain it, and they were probably on their iPhone looking up Beyonce or some crap like that. And now they're still whinging about it. But still, let's
well, they've now got a tool that they can not worry about at school, or they've got a tool now they can catch up.
Yeah, that's great. Do you see this being, okay, it's mortgages today.
Yep.
can you see it expanding to other areas of financial inquiry? It seems to me it's logical that one day you will, credit cards and stuff like that.
Credit cards, interest rates, personal loans, asset finance. I mean, the question today was a guy talking about wanting to finance some solar installation pieces of equipment.
There's a lot of small business people have questions too.
Absolutely. Well, and there's almost 2 million small business owners out there in Australia, and they've got questions about where do they go to obtain finance. The big banks, I mean, some of the banks last week increased rates on their loans, so they're not getting any assistance from the bank. So where do they go? Who do they ask these questions of?
Does it cost them anything to download the app?
No, it's all free.
Gee, you're generous.
Well,
charitable guys.
Consumer advocacy, we want to make sure, but it's all about building the community.
Sure.
And look, we'll look to over time. If and the thing about finance is who do you ask and who do you go to, but it's also are they any good? How do you know you've got a good mortgage broker? How do you know that bank manager? The beauty of Eccho is the information is transparent. You can see the quality of the answers, you can see the tone, the communication skills, you can see their expertise. So a consumer might sit back and say, all right, well, let's bring 2 brokers out from the main brokers, but there's equally as many good independent brokers or mortgage brokers, finance brokers, bank managers, and they say, well, I like the way that person's communicating, detailed answers, let's bring them out as well. So if that happens, we're great, fantastic, and then we'll look to charge a fee for that. So, I mean, there's 756,000 loans done a year in home loans. So if there's obviously about 2 million leads. So consumers are sitting back saying, well, where do I find that good quality finance principle? We had plenty of them at Wizard, but Wizard's not there anymore. So where do you find them? Well, here is a perfect opportunity to review the platform, see the answers, and make contact if you want.
Great stuff. So if people want to find it, it's
available in the iTunes and the Google Play App Stores. It's Eccho Me, and Eccho is a double C, so everything's a little bit tricky these days in that regard.
All right, Paul, good luck with it.
No, thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me.
It just reminded me this morning, I actually wrote a piece on switzer.com.au saying the 5 money questions everyone should answer. You just reminded me. I'm actually answering that question today myself. There's so many important questions that people never ask because they're just too busy living their normal life.
Well, they don't know who to ask, or they're intimidated by the whole process.
Exactly right. So that's Paul Ryan from Eccho Me. So coming up after the break, it seems like Labor and the government are both setting their sights on our super. Liz Westhover of PwC will tell us what we should be on the lookout for.